Okay, so these are the Elkhorn Mountains. Up here on the other side of them would be Helena, Montana. Right down here in the valley is Townsend, Montana. But these are the Elkhorn Mountains, which were created through subduction about 70 back to 80 million years ago. And subduction, obviously these are volcanic. So these, once upon a time, were volcanoes in here. Now, this long lump that I'm standing on here, if you can see the contour of this ground as it sweeps down, this long lump is a giant concretion, well, beneath the glacial sediments and stuff. There is a concretion stretching from, you know, maybe a couple miles up this way, as far as I know, all the way down to the road down here where it kind of comes to an end. And that concretion, I believe, is what is known as a lahar. So what is a lahar? A lahar is a giant mud flow that comes off the side of a volcano. And you see them out in Washington, Oregon. You see lahars all over the place. And I believe that's what this is. So once upon a time, there were big volcanoes here. This is the Elkhorn Mountain volcanics. And you can see they're all eroded down now. What we have here, these plates, this is all limestone plates, standing basically almost vertically. And there's even a limestone mine. This is all excavated up here. If you see the top of these mountains, they're all been excavated off by the lime plant, which is down in the gulch up here. So that's all trucks and dynamite blowing the top of that mountain off as they take all that limestone out of there. So that's why that looks kind of funky. But so I'm just out here trying to make sense of this, what I presume to be a lahar. And we'll go down and look at the outcrop of the lahar here, and I'll go over why I think this is a lahar. But I just find this interesting. Now, between the 70 million year old volcanoes up here and where I'm standing, this is all Precambrian mudstone. So between us and those limestone plates sticking up, these are all vertical mudstone plates from the Precambrian age. If we look over here, you can kind of see the plates. See the plates? Kind of vertically sticking up right here. They come across here. You can kind of see it in the hills here. If you look really close, way back there, you can see the plates on these hills. But this is all plates all the way up. These are Precambrian standing on end. And I'm assuming if we dig down in the dirt down in here, that lahar is right on top of these vertical plates. I'm assuming. Because this gets so complicated to me and confusing, actually. Because these Precambrian plates are all standing vertically. That takes hundreds of millions of years for those plates to stand up vertically. And yet 70 million years ago, a lahar flowed by here. So those plates couldn't have been vertical. That would have, you know, were they... So over the last 70 million years, were they standing up? And, you know, how long did it take for these plates to stand up when they predate the volcanic lahar? It's a little confusing. I'm not going to claim to know because I'm not a geologist. I'm just some guy trying to understand the dynamics here, looking for black widow spiders along these formations down here in this outcrop, this lahar. We'll go look at that now, but I just get to thinking of all of the dynamics that form this area, and it's quite mind-blowing. We'll go look at the outcrop, and you'll see what I mean, how underneath here, underneath this whole ridge, let's walk down here a bit. Watch for rattlesnakes. But underneath this, notice how I'm on this bank. You can kind of see some of the outcrop over here. But it's underneath this whole bank is that concretion. On top of this is all these rocks. This is you know, erosion from our Holocene, and then before that, the Pleistocene. This is all Ice Age debris from glaciers and all sorts of crap on top of this. But it slowly eroded everything down, and so we can see the, what I'm assuming is Cretaceous Lahar layer. Let's go take a look at that. I'll walk over there here. Okay, as I start walking down here towards our outcrop over here, this is our first sign of it. Starting to get exposed out of the dirt here. See this? That's the concretion I'm talking about. And it's under, you know, all of this Pleistocene, Holocene, all the way back to the Eocene, you know, debris. But that's that cement. Full of particles of rock that are jagged and busted up. This is breccia, okay? This is breccia. It's all busted up, jagged pieces of rock in a concretion, which is why I'm thinking this is a lahar. This happened in a big hurry, but this is the only exposure yet. But you can just see how far down it is underneath all this, and it goes along here. Let's head over to the outcrop. Why am I in here? This is a great black widow habitat that I do frequently come to see how population densities have changed, where some mothers have moved to, and look for egg sacs, look for last year's egg sacs, things like that, just to kind of get a scope of the dynamics of what's going on with black widow spiders. But here's that concretion. Now we're starting to see the outcrop. You see that layer there? As we get down the hill here, there's less on top of it. There's that cemented layer. Now notice how it's just kind of like a big blob. It's a rounded blob. Like it was rolling down the hill in an oozing blob, and it just hardened that way. Now we can see more of it. Here's the top layers. As it goes down deeper into the hillside, we can really see it starting to be exposed. Notice all the jagged rocks in it, all that breccia. And then as we come down in here, we really get to the main outcrop. More of the cementation here. I gotta watch for rattlesnakes in here. It's that time of year. Now we're getting down in. Now we can see the outcrop here. Look at that. That amazing outcrop. Some of you have probably seen this before. I've showed it before. Just never looked at it this hard. Look at that. All of that is cement. And it's in a big blob form. That's about 10 feet high. But the thing that really sticks with me as we look close at it is all the jagged rocks. It doesn't look alluvial at all. There's no rounded, smooth rocks in it. Maybe occasionally one or two. And that's because as this mud flow came flowing down the mountain in a big hurry, it went across creek beds and things and did grab some rounded rocks. But the majority of it is just busted up, pummeled, jagged stuff. So that's why I want to say it's breccia and not alluvial or not conglomerate, which is why I'm coming to the conclusion that it's a lahar mud flow from the Elkhorn Mountain volcanics. Let's get right up to it. This is, you can see how big it is here. And it's being undercut through erosion because it's sitting on top of more of a sandstone. And in certain places you can see some of that sandstone that it's sitting on, and that's just getting washed out over time, but the concretion of the lahar is above it. But look at all this jagged. A lot of these are the Precambrian mudstone shales of what I was just talking about up here, all these plates. That's what a lot of this debris is. Which is why I think this came down in a big hurry. Look at this black widow web. This is so impressive. She just has a heck of an infrastructure here, and her hide is up in there. This is a very mature female I've seen last year, and I think even the year before, I believe is the same female. She has discarded egg sacs. She's been here a while. But notice it just looks like a blob that came down the mountain and it just hardened at one time. Now again, I'm just interested in this. I don't know if I'm correct about any of this. I'm just assuming through the evidence that I'm looking at here that this is a lahar, which is why it's so fascinating to me. I think that's pretty awesome to imagine giant volcanoes back in that direction at one time and giant mud flows coming off of those and ending up down here in the valley into this massive concretions. That kind of deep time is just fascinating to me. Now just look at this. See, you see how everything just looks busted up and jagged. There's Precambrian mudstone shales intermixed with all sorts of debris of rock, mountainside rock, and quartzite. And then here and there, maybe an alluvial rock or two from a creek bed that was swept with the mud flow. Now, on my geologic maps, this is not on any maps. There is no concentration on these smaller attributes of the area. Everything is just basically talks about the key Precambrian mudstones, a lot of the Jurassic and Cretaceous limestones and things, and then of course the Cretaceous volcanics. But none of this other stuffs, like these outcrops of mud flows and things, none of these are on any of the geology maps. So I have to kind of come to a conclusion of what this stuff is and why it's here. There's another outcrop right up here. Let's take a look at that too.